Well, there's one episode that nobody dies. Few people got fired. But it's not really a if there's a tomfoolery episode, a shenanigans episode of Dark Side of the Ring, it's got to be the plane ride from hell. And this was a by popular demand, a viewer suggestion, right? Or just everybody said, hey, you got to do this because it's taken on a life of its own. It's that there's no grieving, surviving family to do sound bites, but this is just a bunch of alleged grown adults acting like lunatics. And it's why, besides, when I was with the WWF, they did not have a private plane. But I heard about some overseas flights where people would be on a commercial flight with too much time on their hands. That's why I never crossed the ocean and would not have flown in a WWE company plane with these jolly jokers. I loved Crockett's plane back in the 80s when it was all the boys just having fun. And occasionally you might get, if you went to sleep, Bobby Eaton would take your shoelaces out and put them in upside down and tie them together at the bottom. That was a terrible rib. But this just went completely out of hand and fucked with everybody to this day.
Yeah, it's definitely like since we started working on Dark Side of the Ring, pretty much any wrestling fan we've run into are like, oh, well, if you're going to do Dark Side, wrestling stories, like you got to cover the plane ride from hell. And, we never really were able to figure out how at the time during season 1 and season 2, how to, tell that story in 45 minutes or to extend it that long. But then when season 3 came along, we had to make 14 episodes. We thought, well, let's put some serious research behind this and see, what the story is. And, the more we dug deeper into it and did research and talked to more people who were on that airplane, it's been this story for years that has kind of been looked at as like kind of locker room foolishness or, just boys being boys kind of thing. But when you really hear from, some of the people who worked on that flight, there were things that happened that I could see being very traumatic and, they were. And it, really brings home the title, The Plane Ride to Hell. It sounded like it was really hell.
See, that's the thing. Everything that I've heard that happened on that flight, I can picture and see happening in a locker room, a wrestling locker room in some territory anytime over the last 50 years.
Yeah.
But not all at the same time and not at 35,000 feet.
Yeah.
That would have been where I had the fucking issue. Wait a minute.
Yeah, I think there's
when Mad Dog Vachon tried to open the back door on Vern Gagne's fucking private plane with 6 people on it, but this was a jet.
Yeah. Yeah, this episode, I think, for me, was really tricky to try and wrap my head around for the show because historically on shoot interviews, YouTube, you can go down the plane ride rabbit hole, on YouTube, and for a lot of it, it's talked about and chronicled as tomfoolery, like you were saying, like that's how people consider it. And I have to tell you that after cutting this whole thing together, and we have like a rough cut right now because it's not finished. This is one of the more anxiety-inducing fucking episodes of the show that I have ever, and this is in its rawest form.
Yeah.
Of absolute fucking horror show, and I don't know. This is crazy. This is like, I would never have thought that this episode would be as dark and disturbing and horrifying as it is. And I'm not exaggerating because, the context is everything too, where it's like the roster just got through this, grueling European trip, and they're on their way back. And this crew has been with the wrestlers the whole trip throughout Europe because it's the same plane for the whole trip. And they're at the final day where they're flying back, across the Atlantic, and there's a weather delay and in Stamford, and the delay is 7 hours. So the plane is actually parked on the tarmac for 7 hours. And what are they doing? Well, they're going through carts and carts and carts of booze. I've never actually heard of when you run out of one cart, they'll bring you another one type of situation. But this definitely was what was going on. And then as you're understanding this, knowing what you know about this world and some of the characters that are on this flight, it's just like, oh man. And it just goes from there. And then I think that there's elements of this story that people are going to be very surprised in where it goes. And it gives me anxiety. It keeps me up at night, actually. It's an anxiety-inducing episode.
These are the things that keep us up at night. Well, what else keeps you up at night? Now, season 3, that may not all be dusted off and polished and sorted and everything, but you know the subjects, the shows are scheduled, but who or what do you still want to do? There's going to be a season 4. These things are, especially with my appearances, highly rated.